for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
all in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur. Oh!
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the ball!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement, et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Coupe Stanley pour les Canadiens. Le 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs! And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup!
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. La Vida TV. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
Matt O'Hayan with you on this Friday evening. That's right, I have returned. The Hebrew Hammer is back. Let's get some things out of the way first before I catch you up on where I've been. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Energy Transportation Group is a leading full-service logistics provider serving all of North America, driven to be different. We're also brought to you by La Bita TB Beer, brewed in Quebec and a winner of a dozen international awards. La Bita TB offers quality microbrewery beers made with premium ingredients for everyone's taste. La Bita TB, embrace your true nature. Ah, yes, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this, but you know, Sammy and Agnello, they didn't tell me to mention this, but it is common sense. Join us for a meet and greet tomorrow. This is tomorrow to celebrate the start of the hockey season. La Bita TB, the Sick Podcast, and IGA Extra are proud to bring you the chance to meet Tony Marinaro and Matt O'Hayan. I'm not on the poster. Whatever. No big deal. That is tomorrow at 2 p.m. In DDO. Right in my stomping grounds where I grew up. It's on right next to Marché de l'Ouest, 11800 Boulevard de Salinary. There you go. So come meet Tony Marinaro tomorrow and myself if you care about me. I know some of you aren't too fond. It's okay. I know a lot of people that aren't too fond. Experience the world-renowned poker experience with free food and drinks at their cash games table, a bad beat jackpot that is closing in on $1.5 million, weekly promotions, daily tournaments, and unmatched customer service. Why go anywhere else than Playground? Located just over the Mercier Bridge, only minutes away from downtown Montreal. So, where have I been? Okay, last week, 2 weeks ago, I told you guys a couple weeks ago on the Sick Podcast that I would be just outside of Columbus, Ohio at a music festival. This is like a bucket list music festival for me. It's called Lost Lands, put on by one of my favorite DJs, if not my favorite DJ, Excision. I know a lot of you don't really care about this, but I'm going to tell you anyways. Great 4-day event. It really is a 5-day event. I only went for 4. Just really an unbelievable 4 days. And much to Tony Marinaro's chagrin, I will be going to Boston a few times this year to meet up with my friends that I went to this festival with because we're trying to keep the good times rolling. So sorry, Tony, you got a couple more Fridays coming your way. Not in the near future, don't worry. But at some point you will. Anyways. So that's where I was 2 weeks ago. Last week, it was my mom's birthday on Friday. So valid reason not to do the Friday show. There you go. That's where I was. Let's talk hockey because I don't want to talk football. Bad vibes in football. As you know, I'm a Bengals fan. It's not going great right now. So we're going to talk hockey because that's where the good vibes are. Good vibes are with the Habs right now. Who better to talk about we're right on the cusp of the regular season with the Montreal Gazette's Stu Cowan. Stu, how we doing?
I'm doing good. Actually, Columbus, friends of mine are surprised when I tell them that Columbus is one of my favorite NHL cities to visit. It's a really cool city.
Is it really? Because all I did there was I just landed in the airport and, took the shuttle over to the festival. That was about half an hour outside the city. Listen, I'm sure it's a nice city, but all I saw on the way to this festival was cornfields for days. So I was like,
Well, the area
oh, I
around the
kinda
arena,
see.
the arena district there is pretty cool, and the German village they have is really cool. It's sort of a mix between almost like NDG and Old Montreal. It's a really cool area. I always like going there. It's a fun spot. It's a fun city. And they got a great AAA ballpark there too. The Cleveland Indians farm team plays there.
Well, there you go. So it's interesting because, I'm landing in, Columbus, and my friends are like, if you got time to kill between your flight and your shuttle to the festival, they got a really cool diner. And I'm like, that's a really tough sell. Just, that's like the must see, but that's good to know. Yeah. Bit of a weird flight path to get there. Kind of annoying. I had to fly into Philadelphia.
Yeah, there's no direct flights.
Yeah, fly into Philadelphia and then 4-hour layover in Philadelphia airport, and then
been there, done that many times.
Yeah, there you go. So the story. All right, let's talk hockey because the preseason is ending tomorrow night for the Canadiens. This has been. It's funny because preseason has always been like a nightmare for Canadiens fans because I think before this year, the Canadiens has gone like 2 years or a year and a half without winning a preseason, 2 seasons without winning a season game, something like that.
Yeah, I know 0-8 last year, and they lost their first 3, I want to say, this year.
Yeah, exactly. Then things turned around, and hey, Toronto blew another 3-1 lead. You'll love to see it. It's great. But seriously speaking, I feel like this year more than last year, because last year everyone was kind of expecting the Habs to be in the gutter, and then once the regular season started, they obviously proved that they're not. They weren't as bad as their record showed because of all the injuries, by season's end. Mm-hmm. But this year, lots and lots of, I wouldn't say expectations, but hype, because there's a lot of exciting young prospects. And, we were talking earlier in the summer about, the forward group and who could make there. But really, we kind of didn't really shoo it aside, but we didn't focus on the defense. But that's really where the Canadiens have begun to shine in this preseason.
They've got so much young talent on defense now. I wrote a column on Hockey Inside Out now, just going back. What a difference from 6 years ago when Victor Mete was the first defense pairing partner with Shea Weber. Remember those days? That was their best option to play in the top, and they got they've got 6. They got 8, 3, 2, 4, 6, 7, 8 or 9 defensemen still in camp now. And the oldest one is, David Savard's 32, and then the second oldest one is Matheson at 29, then Kovacevic's 26, and all the other guys are like 21, 22, 23. Logan Mayu looked really good at training camp, played well against Toronto, sent him to Laval, which is the right decision. He hasn't played a lot of hockey the last couple of years. Didn't play at all during the COVID year 3 seasons ago, and then 2 seasons ago he was suspended for the first half of the season. Only played a handful of games, and he didn't play that much last year. So that was the right decision. And then the surprise right now, of course, is Norlinder still being around. A few years ago, he was considered basically their top defense prospect or one of their top defense prospects, and he sort of fell off the map. Last year, they used 11 defensemen with all the injuries, and he never got called up once. He must have been in Laval going, hey, remember me? But he's played really well at training camp. Marty St. Louis said his compete level was much higher than it was last year. And he's still sticking around. He's one of those guys that's on the bubble now. It's sort of between Norlinder, Barron, and Lindstrom as to who's going to be the 7th defenseman or maybe even squeak into the top 6.
Just because they're internal guys, and this is nothing against Lindstrom, obviously he's had a pretty good camp himself, but I feel like they're going to be giving in the last game, and practices and whatnot, they're going to be giving Barron and more so Norlinder, I would think, just every opportunity because he was drafted by this organization. They really want those types of guys, even if it's not the same era, we'll call it, or regime. Yeah, they really want those guys to succeed because they want homegrown and build that culture. And I feel like they're going to give Norlinder every chance he can get to really prove himself that he's going to be this year's Arbor Jackeye, that he's going to force his way into the lineup. And that's really, really encouraging to see, especially because I don't want to call him an offensive dynamo, but but he showed that he has a lot of offensive talent in when he was playing in Sweden. Like you said, fell off the map a little bit last year in Laval, and now he's back and he showed that offensive prowess in the preseason.
Yeah, and well, Justin Barron is more Kent Hughes' guy than Norlinder. I mean, you traded Lehkonen for Justin Barron, former first-round pick with Colorado. They gave Barron every opportunity to make the team last season, played him in almost every preseason game, if not every preseason game, and he just didn't look good. And Jack Guy beat him out for the job, and he hasn't looked great again this year. Here's a guy they'd like to see him in the lineup for what they give up for him. But he is only 21 years old. So, sending him back isn't the end of the world if they send him back to Laval for some more seasoning. But Norlinder's been better than him during training camp. And the Canadiens seem to reward guys who perform, and that's why he's still around. So it's really going to be interesting to see who ends up in Laval, how the breakdown for the final roster goes. Now they keep 7. Do they keep maybe 8 defense or what they're going to do? I think it'll be 7. But it's going to be interesting. At this point, I think Lindstrom's ahead of Norlinder's ahead of Barron, and Lindstrom's probably ahead of him too. So it's really going to be interesting to see. They're going to have some tough decisions to make, but as Marty St. Louis often says, it's good to have tough decisions to make. When you think back to the tough decision 6 years ago was putting Victor Mete on the top defense pairing with Shea Weber.
Well, there you go. And that, that's like the biggest difference when you frame it, because a lot of people could just look from the outside or even from the inside and say, oh, look, these are the guys at the bottom of our lineup, Well, they're making they're competing and making tough decisions. Kind of felt like Victor Mete was just thrusted in there.
Yeah, they basically they wanted to separate Weber and Petrie, so they have two top guys in their top 2 pairings. And then it was, well, who do we put with them? And they had Jordy Ben back then. They had Mark Streit, Carl Alsner. Yeah. That was your defense. The team finished 28th that season for a reason.
Yeah. Well, and I remember when they signed Mark Streit, it was like, you lost Alex Radulov. What do you bring in? You bring in Alex Semin and Mark Streit. They also. I feel like Mark Streit. He was the year before when they lost. They lost Markov, right? Am I wrong? Am I right there?
I think that's yeah. But I mean, you go from then to now, and it's just with all these, and they're all young. Like I said, so if Justin Barron doesn't make the team this year, he starts in Laval. It's not the end of the world again because he's only 21 years old. You forget sometimes how young these guys are. He seems to be maybe the pressure of trying to make the team. Because he looked pretty good when he came up at the end of last season. He played well. But this preseason, he sort of looked like he did last preseason. He's sort of been nervous and tentative on the ice. He hasn't really been that physical. And you compare that with the way Jack Guy played last year at training camp. He was hitting everything that moves. He's like they had to give him a spot. He just did so much starting from the rookie camp, evaluation camp, training camp, all the way through. He earned a spot on the team.
Yeah, and there's something to be said, when it comes to Barron, like you said before, he's only 21. So that's the first thing. That's very, very young for a defenseman. And the other thing is there's something to be said about being, I know it's like you got to get up for camp because this is your chance to crack the roster, but it's still an 82 game season and a lot of things can change day to day, week to week. And there's something to be said about just being a slow starter. Like maybe he gets better. He needs real game action, like games that matter, regular seasoning that matters to get him up to speed. Like that's just like, it's just the nature of the beast sometimes, like I don't want to mention it, but I'm gonna because it's gonna make me sad. But like the Bengals every year, that's the story of like this year aside because their quarterback is injured, but they're known to be slow starters. Last year started 0-2. Then they went all the way to, I think, 4-4, won 12 games in a row or 8 games in a row. So some players, teams, they could be slow starters. So I feel like there's also just not a concern level with Canadiens fans and the Canadiens with Justin Barron.
No, I mean, I was mentioning the young defenseman before. I don't think I even mentioned David Reinbacher, who was sent back to
Well, there you go.
Lane Hudson, who's playing again in NCAA hockey. I mean, they have so many. Jaden Struble is going to be in Laval too, a second round pick. So they just have so many guys. But there's pressures, the internal pressure on these guys, and maybe Barron felt that. Maybe he felt that last year. So last year they really wanted him to make the roster last year, and again this season, maybe less so. This season's going to have more other options. But again, I mean, if you have Barron and you have Logan Mailloux playing in Laval, and even if Norlinder, Laval's gonna be a lot of fun to watch this season with all the players they're gonna have down there. But the thing, who's gonna be the seventh defenseman? Like Weidman was signed here because he's the perfect seventh defenseman, right? If he doesn't play 10 games in a row, he never complains. You can sit him there, you can throw him in when you need him. He's a great guy in the room. The players all love him. But I think what we'll see is maybe a rotation between some of these young guys, depending on who the defensemen are, with maybe like a Jordan Harris and Norlander or a Lindstrom or whatever the guys that are there sort of rotating in and out. We saw that a little bit last year with Marty St. Louis, where guys would sit out a game and rotate. And that's not a bad thing when you consider the grind of an 82-game season. And Marty St. Louis also said, he said, don't be surprised that Logan, he said, don't bet against Logan Mailloux not playing in the NHL this season. The injury is going to happen, and the kid showed that he's a good player. So, if or when there's injuries and they call up a defenseman, Logan Mailloux might be the first guy getting called up.
It's funny because 2 weeks ago I wasn't on, so I never got to talk about the red-white game or the first few games of preseason, or even the beginning when they were holding scrimmages at camp. And I just remember seeing people on Twitter just absolutely hammering Mailloux, being like, this guy's not good. He's not good. We knew it. But it's like we keep saying, keep the perspective. He's still a young defenseman, and he didn't play for the better part of 2 years, or competitive.
And I chuckle when you use the scrimmages early in training camp when people are breaking down guys' plays and that. And it's a scrimmage. Some guys haven't been on the ice for a while. Some guys have. Some guys, the veteran guys are just sort of shaking the rust off, as one of them said. It's not a time when you're really going to evaluate guys. I mean, tomorrow night's game in Ottawa will be a good evaluation. The last game of the preseason, the most important one. That's when, we spoke last year that went 0-8 in the preseason. I don't put much emphasis or any emphasis on preseason results. Coaches are playing different guys who aren't going to play with each other. They're playing guys who are never going to play in the NHL. The results really mean nothing. But the last, going into the season 0-8 in the preseason doesn't help, obviously, for the team morale. But
you're back. There you go. Hold on, Stu. We don't have your audio. So just give us a second here. Hey, these things happen. Live podcast. Oh, I think I got something.
You got it there?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay. Sorry, somebody called me on my.
No problem. No problem. So just go ahead, continue what you were saying about preseason, not putting much emphasis on losing 8 games.
Yeah, guys are playing with different. And tomorrow night, I think we'll see probably the lines that we're going to see, the forward lines that we'll likely see for the start of the regular season. Maybe with the exception of the fourth line, we might have a couple of guys on there battling to see who gets the spots. The defense pairings will be interesting. But we'll get a better look at what this team is going to look like when they open the season Wednesday night in Toronto.
Yeah, and it's funny because the Canadiens, I don't want to say they own Toronto, but they give that team a lot of problems. So does
Josh Anderson. Josh Anderson.
Yeah, oh my God. Josh Anderson is like the freaking boogeyman to Toronto. Yeah. Like, my God. So it's just like that's going to be very, very exciting because frankly, Toronto, I don't care if Dubas is gone. They're starting the season in a damn pretty hot pressure cooker. Like, my God, is the pressure on in Toronto? Like, the Blue Jays just got their asses kicked in the playoffs. Now Toronto, everyone's like, oh, same old story, whatever. But like, now they have a new GM, but Sheldon Keefe is still there. I'm excited to see that game because the Canadiens could really play loosely, and Toronto, they might, one mistake, if they're already down 1-0 in the first period, first 5 minutes, you start to clench your behind a little bit.
Yeah, I wonder how much of Sheldon Keefe still being there has to do with Austin Matthews, basically saying, I'll resign here, but I want this guy as the coach. Like, I really wonder how much that played into that role because, the playoff record speaks for itself, and he just hasn't been able to get this team over the hump in the playoffs. And you say the pressure is on. I mean, Toronto's got such a powerful offensive team. I mean, it's hard to imagine them not making the playoffs. And the regular season has basically become meaningless for that team at this point. What are they going to do in the playoffs? They won one round last year, and that's first round they've won. I can't even remember how many years. So for Toronto, it's all about what they're going to be able to do in the playoffs. And you look at what they did in the offseason. Simmons left, and they brought in Ryan Reeves. And it's like there's still a new GM, but it's still Brendan Shanahan's still there. You wonder how much he's still sort of calling shots, and how much that has to do with Dubas leaving, as they saw things differently. But to bring in a guy like Ryan Reeves, okay, they want to be tougher, but can you even play Ryan Reeves in the playoffs? They didn't play Simmons in the playoffs. Like, you're playing a man short almost when you put that guy on the ice in a playoff game. So it's going to be interesting to see what Toronto does. They're still counting on those core four guys that in the playoffs, when the going gets tough, they just haven't come through. So as you say, the pressure on Toronto a bit to start the season, but more so in the playoffs. And for Canadiens fans, wouldn't it be great if they started the season by knocking off the Leafs in Toronto?
Well, yeah. There's really like, even as a, because I know like you guys in the media, like, you can't cheer for the Canadiens, but your job is always more fun when they do better.
Yeah. People
that's
always say, like, I honestly don't. The only like, I know you're a Bengals fan. Like, I don't. There's no team I cheer for. I don't have a favorite team in any sport. I cover the Canadiens, and yeah, it's more fun covering a team when they're winning. It's fun covering a team in the playoffs. The players are in a better mood when they're winning, and easier to deal with them when they're losing. But yeah, for the Canadiens, the thing that I found last season, I think we'll have the same thing this season, is that they were fun to watch. I mean, before under Dominic Ducharme, there was nights in the press box you'd be saying to guys, "Oh my God, thank God we're getting paid to watch this. Like, this is brutal. It's like watching paint dry, And and you run out of how many different ways can you ask guys after the game? Why do you guys suck? It's like you start getting creative in how you're asking questions. But the thing with this team now, they're young. I think they're gonna be fun to watch. They're gonna play a fast, skilled brand of hockey. I don't think they're at the level yet where there's gonna be some growing pains in defense. And the sophomore jinx is a true thing in sports. A lot of guys going into the second year, one or two of the guys are probably going to struggle because of that. The goaltending with Allen and Montembeault, two guys are not really, they only have a number one guy, and they have two guys that have injury problems in the past. They have a healthy Carey Price in goal behind the young defense, and maybe this team could squeak into the playoffs. But they need goals. The power plays, they got to fix the power play. That's like, to me, the number one thing they got to fix going into the season. But yeah, it's I think they're going to be a fun team to watch. The Canadiens fans will enjoy it.
Speaking of the power play and of defense, just as a whole note, the power play, like, now you have guys that are showing that not only through camp, but like they have the coach's confidence. Norlinder, Mayu, that's just to name two of them. And then, these guys, and then you have Matheson, hopefully healthy for the majority of the season, if not the full season. These are offensive defensemen that can step in and hopefully be that internal solution finally to the power play. Because really, Maxime Lapierre was on with Tony earlier in the week, and he said it's not Alex Burrows' fault. And like, to a certain degree, I kind of agree with him, because like, Jordan Harris is a great skater. He got a couple power play shifts near the end of the season last year, but at the same time, like, he's a great skater. Something to be desired when it comes to shooting the puck.
Yeah, he doesn't have a heart.
And you need that. You need that as a power play. You can't just, as a power play quarterback, you can't just be first pass guy, because you don't add another element to it, because the teams know, all right, he's not going to shoot the puck.
Yeah.
So it's basically 4-on-4 then.
Yeah, I mean, the future of the Habs power play, Lane Hudson could be a key guy with that.
Yeah.
Logan Mayhew's got a wicked shot. And Mike Matheson, he won the hardest shot competition at the Habs skill competition last year. It was over 100 miles an hour. He's got a good shot too, but you're right. I mean, Jordan Harris is great moving the puck, great skater, but he doesn't have a shot. It goes back, we talked about Victor Mete earlier. Remember, Mete didn't have a shot, which hurt them also. But they've got, I mean, the power play, they got to find, they have enough talent here.
Yeah.
That they should, maybe not be the best power play in the league, but they've got to be like somewhere around the middle anyway. And
better than 28. Yeah, better than 28.
Better than 28. I mean, I go back to when Guy Carbonneau was head coach here. They had the number one power play in the NHL, I believe, 2 years in a row. He was doing something right back then. So but that's one of the things I think they really, really need to fix this season. It's been what, 6 years since Andrei Markov left. Basically, the power play was horrible.
Well, that's the thing, because we talk so much about like listen, I'm on the same page as you. I don't think the Canadiens make it to the playoffs. I don't think they squeak in. Can they make a little bit of a push? Be that thorn in the side of teams? Of course they can. Yeah. But just if you add, let's just say, 20 power play goals, to the goal total this season, or last season, how many of those games do they win?
Yeah.
If you just add 20, over the season, you're probably winning maybe 5 more games, pushing a couple to overtime. That's more points in the standings. So like the power play could be a key to the Canadiens' development, even as players. You want to see development this year. Let's get that power play moving, because these players need to learn how to play that role.
Yeah, and Cole Cofeld missing a good chunk at the end of the season. Obviously, it didn't help their power play either. But to say Matheson is a point guy, something. But they, with Suzuki and Josh Anderson, and they got guys that can shoot the puck. They got guys willing to stand in front of the net. Raphael Harvey-Pinard stand in front of the net and be a pain in the butt for the goalie and whack in rebounds if they're there. It's they've got enough style. Sean Monahan's such a smart guy. You can use him on the power play too. They have they don't have elite talent for the power play. They have an elite shooter in Cole Coffield, but they don't have elite talent. But they have enough talent that the power play, it has to be better than it's been. And and they got to get a little bit more creative. I mean, everybody in the world knows they're going to drop the puck to Nick Suzuki at the red line, and he's going to carry in. They do it every time. There's got to be some variation to what they're doing.
Yeah, it's just don't regress back to the dump and chase on the power play. Okay, find the more creative way, and
But there's got to be different zone entries apart from just constantly the drop back pass. I mean, every team in the league does that drop back thing, but it's like you're watching. Here it comes the drop pass.
Yeah, exactly. And it's more really just the frustrating part about that zone entry is like if it doesn't work and like they just shoot they're just going to do it right again. Like they're just going to do the same thing.
It's coming. I mean, sitting in the press box, here it comes. Yeah.
Yeah. So just to close out the last thing on the defense before we move on to the forwards is that this is like just on the note of this being an abundance of defense. This is exactly what we thought would happen. Like this is what we were talking about last season, beginning of the year, or in the Kent Hughes' first off season or whatever was, this is going to happen. They have an abundance of defense. Some will hit, some won't. They're going to trade some assets. There's just too many guys in the room. That's just what's going to happen. And we're watching it play out right now. That's just what's happening. And
we've got the competition this year. I mean, next year you'll throw in Reinbacher into there. You're going to Logan Mayo will be back, and maybe
Lane Hudson will be in there.
Maybe Lane Hudson leaves university. I don't know if he's a guy I think staying in university longer. He's got to get bigger and stronger. It won't hurt him, but I mean, there's going to be so many. This is what a rebuild is. This is the definition of a rebuild. You stockpile as much young talent as you can, and you develop them, and then you have them battle it out. And the ones that you don't have a spot for, you can trade them. I mean, at some point they'll move David Savard. He's a key part as the sort of veteran leader of these guys. But at some point you'll be able to move him, and he'd be a valuable asset for a playoff team at a trade deadline. So that's what Kent Hughes has done. He's just continued stockpiling young talent and draft picks. And 11 picks next year's draft, 11 picks the year after that. You can use those picks in trades also. It's a definition of what a rebuild is what we're seeing with the Canadiens right now, having all these young, talented guys fighting for positions, and it's only get more difficult for them moving forward, and having those difficult decisions is a good thing for a coach and a GM to have.
Yeah, and for the fans out there that they might be freaking out a little bit about the Justin Barron, every year it's the same story at camp, he can't crack the roster, whatnot, is no problem, because if someone else could do it, he's going to be pushed out the way, and then he becomes that young asset like Alex Newhook was in Colorado.
Exactly.
Sorry, you got a good talent. You're good talent. We just don't have space.
We just don't have a spot for you. We don't have a spot for you. Exactly. That's exactly the case with Alex Newhook. He was a young player on an experienced veteran team with a lot of talent ahead of him in the roster, and that'd be the case. Let's say like with even the Norlander. if Nylander doesn't make the Canadiens, he can't crack in. There's probably other teams. They're also, showcasing him for other teams, even in playing him in these preseason games, right? If they do decide that they want to make a move or they want to deal a guy, and he's just becomes sort of the odd man out for them as far as their young defense core goes.
So let's move on to the offense now, because there were some good headlines that Canadiens fans were eating up yesterday, today, and that's what Cole Cofeld said about being a Hab and like what that meant to him. For guys like you and me, we're not obviously Habs, but like growing up in the city, we know what the Canadiens mean to the city. So we don't know the level that Cole Cofeld knows because he is a Canadian, but we know what this team means to the city.
We can go out for dinner without getting stopped every 2 seconds there for an autograph or a photo or anything like that.
When I got it was when the Canadiens played in the Stanley Cup Finals, and I was at the game that they won, and like I understood the history at that moment. That was my aha moment, because always, whenever they did the pass the torch thing, I'm like, all right, it's enough of the past. Let's look to the future. You're harping too much. But then I got it at that moment. And you lived those years where it was Stanley Cup every year, just Stanley Cup after Stanley Cup. For him to say that at such a young age, it's like there's such a level of maturity that takes for someone to go out there and say it, because it's like, it's one thing, oh, I'm super excited to be a Montreal Canadian, when they get drafted, whatever. But like, he's one of the very few guys in the Marc Bergevin era that like showed it. He shows he wants to be here. He knows what it means. And, for all intents and purposes, he's not exactly a veteran leader, but guys in the room look up to him because of the talent that he holds.
And the work ethic.
Just like Nick Suzuki. And like when these guys are displaying that, that's their way of getting it. And I love seeing that Cole Cofeld, he didn't grow up near an NHL city. So he just had a lot of talent, grew up in a hockey town, hockey state. And now it means the world to him. And that's great to see.
Well, with him and with Gallagher, I remember back when they named Shea Weber captain. I wrote a call at the time saying I thought Brendan Gallagher should have been the captain. Gallagher gets what it means to be a Montreal Canadian. He gets what the team means to the city. He understands it. I don't think Shea Weber ever totally understood that or ever really grasped that. Like, being captain of the Canadiens is a lot more than just what you do in the locker room and on the ice. Nick Suzuki gets that. And I think I think the main reason, or one of the big reasons they named Suzuki captain instead of Gallagher, is that with Gallagher's contract, Hughes would probably like to move him or trade him if he can for assets at the age he's at. You don't want to name a guy captain and then trade him a year or two later. Nick Suzuki's the future of this team as far as a leader. So I understand why they made Nick Suzuki the captain instead of Brendan Gallagher. But Brendan Gallagher to me epitomizes in many ways what a captain of the Canadiens would mean. The effort. I'm wondering if he can bounce back this season to be maybe a 20-goal scorer. Preseason, he hasn't looked great. But again, preseason, I don't really judge veteran guys. A guy who's been the injuries he's been through and everything. You're probably not going, although I shouldn't. Brendan Gallagher always goes 100%. A little less. I think he's maybe thinking more about not getting hurt and whatnot, especially during the preseason. But he gets what it means to be a Canadian. And I think that's rubbed off. A little bit of that is rubbed off on Suzuki and Cofeld and a younger group of guys who want to be here. They enjoy being with the Canadiens, all these young guys. It's fun. Like, Cofeld enjoys the spotlight. He enjoys, and they say for a kid who grew up in Wisconsin, he's not used to it. It's not like he was a college football star in Wisconsin where he would have had all that attention. The hockey team, walk around the campus in Wisconsin, probably don't even know who you are. But he's handled it really well. And as you say, it's a young guy also who understands what the Canadiens mean to the city. And Nick Suzuki, I think, has learned more about what this team means to the city by living here the last 2 summers and going to some of the events and going to concerts and seeing fans in the summer and realizing that 12 months a year, this city talks about the Canadiens. It never stops. This podcast talks about the Canadiens 12 months a year. The Habs fans cannot get enough of this team. And it's good when you see guys like Gallagher and the younger guys coming along who understand that, understand what the team means, and understand the passion. I might have told you the story. You were talking about the younger fans during the Stanley Cup final when the Habs were in it. And you're right. As I've told you many times, my 5 years in high school, the Canadiens won 4 Stanley Cups. But I remember having dinner before going down to the Bell Center on a terrace, and there's some older Habs fans at one table and some younger Habs fans at another table. And one of the younger Habs fans were talking, and one of them said, "Well, what street did they used to have the parade on when they used to win?" And I almost burst out laughing out loud. One of the older guys chuckled and said, "It used to go down St. Catherine Street, the usual route." So it just shows you how much, from a younger generation, older guys like me, you still remember what it was like for a Stanley Cup, and a younger generation like you don't. And that was the closest taste. I mean, when they won that game on St. John Baptiste Day, I think it was Lehkonen who scored the winner, right? Yeah. I mean, the city, and that was during COVID. Like that was and you look where the city just exploded. So imagine that if the Canadiens were to do that again without the lockdowns, and the city would just go insane.
Mm-hmm. Well, you mentioned that goal. It just brings back it's great memories because especially given the context of being in COVID, like this city needed that. A few of the players went up on the roof of the Bell Center afterwards to watch the celebration outside. Yeah. Just they couldn't believe. I mean, some of these younger guys, they haven't seen it either. The guys who play here, none of them were born when the Canadiens last won the Stanley Cup. It's like to see the city just explode like that. It was really something for them to see also. It's funny because I remember that day for many reasons. One, I not a very exciting story of where I was watching. I was watching in bed because I had work early in the morning the next day. But it's just like they scored and I blacked out, I literally blacked out, and then I couldn't sleep that night. And I pull into my parking spot at CJAD at 4 a.m. to prep for the morning show. And it's like, I remember Ken Connors looking at me and he goes, "You sleep much last night?" I go, "Not a wink. I couldn't sleep. It's just crazy." And then he's like, "Now you know how it feels."
I don't know how morning radio guys do it, especially sports morning radio guys, when you got to watch the game the night before and know what you're talking about.
Well, that too. Yeah, that was. I remember that one time, just funny as a side. I was an intern for the morning show, and the Canadiens had played Arizona or somewhere where it was a 10 o'clock West Coast game, and I'm the only one well rested between me, Sean Starr, Connor, and Rick Moffat. I'm the only well rested one, and they throw to me in the segment it was one of the first times they'd ever done that. I wasn't expecting it, and they asked me something about the game, and then I'm like, "I'll be honest with you guys, I went to bed." And they started laughing at me. And they're like, "Oh, Canadiens are down 2-0. No chance they come back. You go to bed." But then Martin Lemay, he actually taught me a great trick when I was for my radio days, which is record Canadien Express.
Exactly.
Just go to bed early, and then just wake up an hour earlier before you leave to work. Have it on while you make the coffee and get yourself awake.
Yeah, smart advice. Smart advice.
But yeah, that Lehkonen goal, man. That was for my generation. That's good times.
And it was such a weird time. I remember being in the Bell Center. It was empty, or there was was it 5,000 fans?
I think it was 3,000.
3,000. It was just and then I remember the bubble playoffs in Toronto with nobody in the stands. It was such a weird time. But again, for the Canadiens, of all the years to go to talk about sort of bad luck, of all the years to go to the Stanley Cup final, they go to the Stanley Cup final and there's no fans allowed. And then of all the years to win the number 1 overall draft pick, they win it the year before Connor Bedard.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Well, it's funny about you talk about the capacity, because I remember for the Stanley Cup final, they said it was it was at 50%, I think. That's what was allowed at the time.
Yeah.
I was in that building in Game 4. There's no way it was 50%. There was, I'm saying there's no way. It must have been 60, just enough that it wouldn't be from TV, you're looking on TV.
Yeah. Well, the money, not that you feel sorry for the Canadiens financially, but I mean the money they lost, or they could have extra money they could have gained during that run with tickets. I remember being in Toronto in the bubble playoffs, and they were pumping in crowd noise.
Oh my God!
Hearing they were going to do it. That's weird. But then whoever did it, they did a good job, and for the players too, just to play in an empty, silent arena in the playoffs would have been so weird. But whoever was controlling the fake crowd noise in the arena, they did actually a pretty good job. It came through on TV really well, I remember. And
it's funny. I remember when that was like a big storyline, and I'm like, when throughout the whole season, when it's like, they're not going to be able to, home ice doesn't mean anything, and all this stuff about the crowd, and I'm just like, these guys have played in front of nobody. They were once peewee and novice players pulling up to the rink at 6 a.m. and the only people that are in the arena are their half asleep moms and dads.
Yeah.
They know
what
it's like.
I think a lot of the fake noise was too, part of it was for the players, and even more so for fans at home watching on TV. They just sort of feel some kind of a vibe there, at least.
Yeah. Okay. Last thing before I get you out of here is one guy that we didn't talk about who we have to, because he's also had a really, really good camp, Kirby Dach. Oh my God. It's
carrying
like,
over from last season,
it's really like I remember last year, there was a game, I've mentioned it before with you, that there was a game that I was like, he's here. And then he got injured. Yeah. Like, I think there's another explosion coming. Like, really, we saw why this guy was drafted 3rd overall.
He's playing with so much confidence. I mean, 3rd overall pick, captain of the World Junior team, Canadian team. The skills there, it didn't work out in Chicago, but I keep thinking back to that video on draft day when they traded for him, and Kent Hughes on the phone with Kirby Dach saying, "You're going to love our coach." And that's exactly what's happened. He's worked with Kirby. He's really he's so smart, and Marty St. Louis loves smart hockey players, and I think he's teaching Kirby Dach how to use his hockey IQ even more so. He's got the size, he's got the range. You can't get the puck off him when he wants to keep it. His great vision. His face-offs still need work, but he's just. He's going to become, I think, a dominant centerman. You think with Suzuki and him down the middle, those are your top 2 centermen. That's not bad moving forward. And he's also able to make the guys around him a little bit better. Just the way he can hang on to the puck and slow the game down a little bit. Similar to what Sean Monahan does. He's like a younger version in many ways of Sean Monahan. So he can control the pace of play, make his line mates better. He's really, really played well. And it's going to be interesting to see if he can stay healthy like everybody on this team. You'd say that about almost. Just how much more he can progress this season. I think he's 22 now, if I'm not mistaken, or 21, 22. They're so young, these guys. I forget how young they are. I think Marty St. Louis he needed a change of scenery out of Chicago, and Marty St. Louis was the perfect coach for him at this stage of his career. And not only him, you look at how Josh Anderson's game has changed since Marty St. Louis took over. I mean, Anderson was a guy just go up and down the wing 100 miles an hour, right? Go to the net. Marty's got him to. I remember Marty talking last year saying that he's taught him that you don't need to go 100 miles an hour all the time. In fact, it's good when you don't, and you can change pace and change speed and find open spots. And we're seeing that. I mean, the goal he scored against Toronto to tie it up, he found open ice in front of the net, and he's got a wicked shot. He can get it away quick. So just guys like that. I mean, the Canadiens, it's all about development. They're banking on all these young talent, like we mentioned before, and they're banking on Marty St. Louis being able to get the best out of them. That's their plan for this rebuild, and it's a smart plan. And Kirby Dach is one of the poster boys for just how this could work. And Cole Cofeld, different players. So after Marty St. Louis came in, was it 48 goals in 83 games with Marty St. Louis as a coach. So that's what this team is built around. Now they're hoping the same with Newhook. They can have the same impact on Newhook. Not that Newhook wasn't good in Colorado. He was a not third line player. He had averaging not too. He's going to get a ton of ice time this year. He's looked really good at training camp. When they had him on a line with Anderson and Slavkovsky during the script, they looked really good. Him and Anderson really had a connection together. That's a line I wouldn't be surprised to see to start the season is Newhook between Anderson and Slavkovsky. The Canadiens want to do everything they can to make Slavkovsky successful this season. Marty St. Louis has talked about he wants to get him more ice time, wants to get him more touches with the puck, and playing with those two guys would be a good way to do that. Yeah,
I just really excited to see a player like Kirby Dach because, the potential is it's not only one of those guys where it's they drafted him or traded for him and it's but he could be that. It's we're seeing more than just flashes of excellence from him. We're really seeing sustained good play, and you're seeing he still has more to give in his game. It's just really unbelievable. One thing that got me really excited was just, and it's hard not to when you're watching like a young star like this, or a young talent like this, I should say, is like, you see people on Twitter that aren't Habs guys and comparing him to like players like Ryan Getzlaf. Like, how much were the Canadiens starving for a Ryan Getzlaf in the Marc Bergevin era? Like, it's really just very, very exciting to see.
Well, and you look down the middle. I mean, Marc Bergevin was talking about how hard it was to get centerman. And you look down the middle. Yeah. Suzuki, you got Newhook, you got Dach, you got Monahan who can play center if you need. You got Jake Evans with their fourth line center. I mean, they're set. And the thing is, their centerman can also play the wings. Monahan and Newhook and Dach can all play center, can all play wing, and they can move them around. So it's going to be interesting to see who they end up putting with Suzuki and Cofeld. If it was me, I think I'd start the season with Monahan with them. It helps Suzuki's faceoffs are still coming along, and it gives them the opportunity to both of them be taking faceoffs on their strong side all the time. And I think Monahan has the hockey IQ to play with these two guys, the defensive responsibility also. But Marty St. Louis got a lot of tough decisions to make, as we mentioned with the defense, and a lot of fun decisions to make. I mean, it must be fun, like trying to, how are we going to set up these forward lines though? How are we going to do this? And I mean, as they always do during the season, they'll change and rotate as the season goes on. But I'm really looking forward to seeing what the forward lines are for opening night Wednesday in Toronto. And
I like that you said these are fun decisions, because if the Canadiens were trying to make the playoffs, like obviously they want to win as many games as they can, but like we all know the playoffs is not the goal. They set it out right. So that turns tough decisions into fun decisions, because you got the talent, you got a lot of talent. Now you could try different things, and like if it doesn't work out, all right, no problem. We'll just try it out try something else out. Maybe that'll mesh. And and it's not just like we talk about Guy Carbonneau when he was the coach near the end. It's kind of felt like when he was building lines, it was just like close your eyes, throw a dart. Okay, that guy's on the first line. This is like, there's a bunch of guys that you could conceivably see like, okay, Kirby Dach added X to Suzuki and Cofeld duo. Let's see what Alex Newhook could add.
Yeah.
Like, what if he could add X, Y, and Z?
They
have those options now.
You got Monahan, you could put in that spot. You got Newhook, you could put in that spot. You got Anderson, you could put in that spot. You got Dach, they got a whole bunch of different guys they can put into that spot that bring different things. And it's a nice thing for Marty St. Louis to have. And he can rotate guys in and out with those two guys. I mean, Scotty Bowman was a big guy. He was more about duos than trios. He had two guys who worked well, and he'd rotate guys in as a third guy. I think that's what we're going to see a lot with Marty St. Louis this year.
There you go. Stu, by this time next week, we'll be chatting
about real games. Yeah.
Real game. It's so hard to believe. I can't believe it. I mean, and hey, I hope you got out there, or I hope you got out there today, because it's going to be a wet one tomorrow.
Yeah. It's been this weather. I played golf Wednesday, and it was 29 Celsius. It's like one of the hottest days I ever played golf, and it was October. And I took my dog for a walk this morning. It was beautiful. I know that. I think our run of incredible summer, September, and October weather is coming to an end. Sadly.
Sadly, but hey, it was a good run. It made up for the crappy days we dealt with in July.
Yeah.
Stu, thank you very much for doing this.
All right. Have a good weekend.
That was Stu Cowan. I'm Matt O'Hayan. Just let's pull out that flyer one more time. So just as a reminder, tomorrow, join us, the SICK team, for a meet and greet with Tony Marinaro. Tony is confirmed going to be there. I'm not on the poster. I'm assuming, because I never confirmed if I would be there. Because if I would be there, I would be on the poster, right? Right, Sammy and Yellow? Right? Celebrate the start of the hockey season with La Bita TV, the SICK podcast, and IGA Extra. We're proud to bring you the chance to meet Tony Marinaro tomorrow, October 7th, starting at 2 p.m. at 11800 Boulevard de Salaberry in DDO, right next to Marché de l'Ouest, right across the street from the Civic Center, for those of you who have kids playing hockey in that area. All right. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll catch you next time.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow The Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. LaBe.tv, embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.